Alina Habba. In case you haven't been paying attention to the news, Alina Habba is Donald Trump's lawyer. This is not a political video, so if you're coming here to bash Donald Trump or bash Republicans or whatever, this is not what this video is about. Alina Habba reminds me of Amber Heard's lawyer. And in case you were wondering, I was in favor of Johnny Depp in that trial. For one reason and one reason only. I actually listened to the tapes. I personally think that relationship was toxic no matter what, how you slice it. But in terms of balance, she was definitely worse than he was. So he had every right to win that case. Plus, you don't sit around talking about how this person destroyed you when clearly he hasn't touched you. So, but that's another story for another day. The bottom line is that when Amber Heard's lawyer had a very good firm, had a very good reputation and whatnot, but here's something that people don't understand. And by the way, I'm not a lawyer. I am not giving legal advice or talking about anything legal. I'm talking about what I've seen through years of talking to lawyers, having friends who are lawyers, and dealing in. I've had a couple of cases that have gone to trial or have settled and whatever. Excuse me. So I know a little bit about this. Plus, that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. The reality is that most people in a law firm never see trial. They don't. They spend their lives doing the research, making their cases, and then they go ahead and settle out of court. Whether it's civil or criminal, it doesn't matter. Another thing, when you have a civil case has a smaller burden of proof than a criminal case. And a criminal case at a state level is different than a criminal case at a federal level. Federal has other things that they have to deal with. Which means that a lawyer that is a lawyer for the state of Florida, for example, has to get certain things done, has to do certain things in order for them to be able to process federal cases. Just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean you can go and do federal cases, okay? Having said that, Alina Habba is a lawyer who came to fame, or at least came to the eye of Donald Trump, because she was the lawyer for a company that does parking. You know, the parking structures, the parking companies, that's what she did. And so I don't know why Donald Trump decided to trust her other than she has the look and whatnot. That's even her words. She went to a podcast and was talking to this person who basically asked her how much her looks had impacted her career. And she clearly leans on her looks to get things. And I don't know if you've ever seen Drag Race, RuPaul's Drag Race, but RuPaul had an expression that was, "Don't rely on pretty." I have been hearing that since I was a little girl. Don't rely on pretty. And this girl was asked by somebody, and this is something that she volunteered. The host of the podcast did not ask her this. He asked her how much her looks had influenced her career. She went ahead and added that she had been asked by somebody if she would prefer to be pretty or smart. And she immediately said pretty because she could fake smart. If you have been keeping an eye on the cases for Donald Trump, she can't fake smart. Number one, the reason why there is no jury trial on the case that she was the main lawyer in for Donald Trump is because she didn't check one of those boxes that you check to go ahead and have a jury trial. So they had a bench trial, which means the judge is the jury. That was her fault. Of course, Donald Trump spun it for his audience as the injustice. No, it was her mistake. It is what it is. And I have no way of knowing if he really knows that it was her mistake or if that's how she spun it so that he would be able to tell the story so convincingly. It's irrelevant. That was her mistake. They are in a trial right now. I believe it's for damages for the E. Jean Carroll case, for which he was already found guilty. And every time the judge admonishes her, she goes ahead and answers, sure. That's not how you talk to a judge. It isn't. She is treating the entire process very cavalierly, And I don't know if it's because she's trying to put on a show for the audience in question, or is it because she really doesn't know how to do this. Personally, it looks to me like she's way over her head. Kind of like Amber Heard's lawyer was over her head in that case too. Why? Because again, most lawyers don't see trials. They get to some sort of agreement with both parties. They never see trial. I've known lawyers that have been in the business for 20 years and can tell you they have been to maybe 10 trials, in one per year basically on average. I have friends who are lawyers that have never seen the inside of a court because they've been able to deal with everything before it gets to that. And that's a goal of many lawyers. They don't really want to deal with it. Plus, it's a good thing for the state, and in the case of federal, for the country, because you don't waste so much time on so many. Because let's be honest, Americans are very litigious. They love to sue people for stupid stuff. And you don't want to, if we actually had all the cases that go and are registered, if all of them were jury trials, nothing would ever get done because there would be a backlog that is ridiculous because there's too many of them. So of course lawyers want to be able to negotiate before that happens. And what looks to me is that Alina Habba is way over her league on this. Now, as far as me thinking whether or not she's smart or not, again, I go back to what I said about people having different types of intelligence. Just because you were able to accumulate the information to pass the bar exam does not mean that you're going to be a great lawyer. I know a lot of people that were really good at taking tests, and they suck at everything that they took the test for. I remember one time I was asking them about something that was on a test, and by the way, they got 100 on that test, and they couldn't answer the question. And I was asking them because I was about to take the test that they had just taken, and I said, listen, there's this example of XYZ, how do I, and they were like, I don't know, and they got 100 on the test. Why? Because they memorized everything. But when it came to taking whatever they memorized and putting it into action, they had no way of doing it. That is a person that is really good at certain types of intelligence, but is not good at others. And just because you pass a bar exam does not make... The other day, I'm going to give you one last example. Elon Musk was talking about how GPA and grade point average in school and IQ were related. And there are studies that claim that they are. There is also studies that say that they're not. The reality is that in order for you to take an IQ test, the word says that you have to take a test. There are people that are really good at taking tests. There are people that are not. There are people that are genius level smart and they cannot take a test to save their life. They get anxiety. They don't like it. Maybe they're like me and they confuse the B and the D's, and next thing you know, they have an entire bubble exam with the wrong answers. There's many reasons for this. But the reality is, not everybody is good at taking tests. So don't tell me that GPA and IQ are related, because I'm not going to believe you. The level of intelligence of a person does not always correlate to their test scores. I had a person that went to school with me, and if you went by their grades, he was dumb as a rock. I would sit and talk to this person, and he was one of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life. He was also very charming, very endearing, and his backstory was one of those situations where you can either claim it as a villain story, origin story, or a hero origin story. That's how bad the story was. I mean, this guy, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but let's just say that when he got hurt at home, he would come to school with the marks where he got hurt. And again, C's, D's, and F's on every class. But then I would start talking to him about the stuff that we learned in class, and the teachers even figured it out. He could tell you everything that we were talking about. He just, for some reason, could not do it on a test. I don't know what became of him because he didn't finish the entire thing with us. But I can guarantee you, once he got out of school, he probably found himself a situation where he could flourish, and he became a big deal because the boy had the brain for it. He just could not sit on a test. And, you know, part of me wonders if the reason why he kept failing the test is because he wanted certain attention. He just didn't know how to go about getting the attention that he wanted. And unfortunately, I'll never know. But the bottom line for me with Alina Habba is this. Even if you, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican or independent or whatever, there is a moment where you have to realize that the message that is being sent is the wrong message. Banning books is not a good idea. I don't care if the right or the left does it. Telling people that it's more important to be pretty than smart is a really bad message. For one thing, you're taking 50% of the population and excluding them from anything because they think they're not pretty. It's not that they're not, it's that they think they're not pretty. And for another thing is you're telling people that you can fake something that you really cannot fake. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.